Quick disclaimer, Learn from Mac is an independent educational project. We are not affiliated with, endorsed by, or sponsored by Apple, or any vendor or product covered in this course. Hey, welcome back to Learn from Mac. I'm Dennis, and today is day 19 of the F5 LTM R4600 Bootcamp. Today we eliminate the single biggest point of failure in this whole month of work, one box, by pairing a second R4600 into a real active standby HA pair. Let's get into it. First, the goal. By the end of this lesson, you'll have device trust established, a sync failover device group created, a traffic group assigned, an automatic failover validated end-to-end between two real R4600 appliances. Here's what you need. Two R4600s on the same TMOS version, a dedicated HA VLAN with a self IP on each device for config sync and heartbeat traffic, management reachability between both, and identical DNS and NTP configuration, mismatch time breaks, certificate validation during pairing. 3 concepts before we pair anything. Concept 1, device service clustering, DSC. This is F5's umbrella framework for grouping big IPs so they share configuration and provide automated failover. Device trust, device groups, traffic groups, and config sync are all components underneath this one umbrella. Concept 2, device trust, a certificate-based mutual authentication relationship. Before any HA function works at all, each device has to trust the other's X509 certificate. The seed device, typically the future active unit, calls the peers management IP and exchanges certificates to establish it. Concept 3, device groups and traffic groups. A sync failover device group is a named group of trusted devices sharing a synchronized configuration capable of failing over to each other. A traffic group is the floating container that actually moves during failover. Floating self IPs, virtual servers, NATs, traffic group 1 by default, and whichever device is active for, it owns all the floating IPs and processes all the traffic. All right, 3 labs. First, we build the HA VLAN, self IPs, and establish device trust between the 2 units. Then we create the sync failover device group, confirm traffic group assignment, and push the first config sync. Then we force a manual failover, confirm the standby actually takes over floating IPs, and validate HA health through the REST API. Let's get into it. Lab 1. On the first unit, build the dedicated HA VLAN and its self IP. Point config sync at this self IP. Now establish device trust with the peer. This is certificate-based and mutual. Confirm both devices now appear in the trust domain. Lab 2. Create the sync failover device group with both units as members. Confirm floating self IPs are actually in traffic group 1. Push the initial config sync out to the group, and watch sync status until it goes green. Lab 3. Force a manual failover from the currently active unit. On the peer, confirm it actually took over as active. Confirm it now owns the floating IPs, like this is the real proof, not just a status field. Return BIGIP to active manually. Remember, these groups are non-preemptive by default. And confirm HA health through the REST API. Green active exactly as expected. And that's a real active standby pair, paired, synced, and failed over live. There are self-check questions on the lesson page worth sitting with, non-preemptive failover behavior especially, since assuming a failed over pair will switch back automatically is a common and costly misunderstanding. Take a minute with those. Quick recap before we go. Device trust is certificate-based and mutual. It has to be established before any other HA function can work at all. A sync failover group enables both config sync and automatic failover. A sync-only group replicates config with no failover for active-active architectures instead. Traffic groups own the floating IPs. Whichever device is active for a given traffic group processes all of that group's traffic. And sync failover groups are non-preemptive by default. A failed over pair stays on the new active unit until someone deliberately fails back. All right, that's day 19 in the books. Device trust, a real device group, a validated failover. That's a genuine insurance policy in place now. Not a single point of failure waiting to happen. If this was useful, hit subscribe. You won't miss a single lesson. Next up is day 20, config sync and failover testing. See you there.